Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today and welcome to Naturally Immune for Life. I thought we would go over some important things about milk that you might not know. Since we talked about bone health last week, I guess it probably only makes sense to give you a little more things that you might not know about why you should be drinking whole fat mammal milk. And it's not just because of the whole fat content, but I'm talking about regular pasteurized whole fat mammal milk, the kind that most people buy and have access to. It has some very important benefits, and that has to do with glutathione and the proteins in whole fat mammal milk. So this week's post is one I've written before, but I've just updated it a little bit and put some important facts in there that you might not know. So, why protein structure matters: undenatured whey protein and glutathione. Glutathione is often referred to as the body's master antioxidant because of its central role in detoxification, immune defense, and cellular protection. High concentrations of glutathione are found in organs that handle the greatest metabolic and oxidative stress, including the liver, heart, and spleen. Maintaining healthy glutathione levels in these tissues is essential for long-term cellular resilience. Scientific research has shown that oral administration of substantive amounts of bovine whey protein enhances glutathione content in the liver, heart, and spleen. While the increase is described as moderate, it is sustained over time and biologically significant, meaning it contributes to ongoing antioxidant capacity rather than producing a short-lived effect. A key finding from this research is that this property is restricted to the undenatured conformation of whey protein. To understand why this distinction is important, it helps to define the term denatured. Protein denaturation is a biochemical process in which a protein loses its natural three-dimensional structure due to heat, pressure, or chemical processing. When a protein denatures, it may still supply amino acids, but its biological activity can be reduced or lost. Structure matters because many protein functions depend on their precise folding and integrity. In the case of whey protein, undenatured forms retain fragile sulfur-containing amino acids and protein fractions that are involved in glutathione synthesis. These components act as precursors that support the body's own production of glutathione inside cells. When whey protein is heavily processed or heat-treated, these sensitive fractions can be altered, diminishing their functional impact. This concept was demonstrated in a landmark animal study by Bonus and Gold, where mice fed undenatured whey protein concentrate showed higher glutathione levels in the liver, heart, and spleen compared to animals fed other protein sources, such as casein. These findings suggested that whey's biological activity depends not only on its amino acid profile, but also on preserving its native structure. The importance of this discovery was later reinforced in patent literature, which emphasized that the glutathione enhancing effect was observed only when whey protein remained undenatured. According to the patent, partial or full denaturation reduced or eliminated the effect. underscoring the role of protein conformation. The sustained nature of the glutathione increase was also highlighted, suggesting long-term relevance for antioxidant and immune support. These findings have practical implications for modern nutrition. Many commercial protein powders are processed using methods that involve heat or aggressive filtration, which can denature proteins. While these products may still be effective for meeting basic protein needs or supporting muscle growth, they may not offer the same antioxidant or immune supportive properties demonstrated in studies using undenatured whey protein. Overall research and patent evidence support a clear conclusion. Undenatured bovine whey protein has unique biological activity that supports glutathione levels in key organs. This effect is moderate, sustained, and biologically meaningful, and it depends on preserving the protein's natural structure. When it comes to functional nutrition, how a protein is processed can be just as important as the protein itself. So that's another thing. What they were using most likely was cheese whey, or they were using bovine colostrum. I can't really remember, but bovine colostrum is processed in a way that all the proteins remain intact, and as is cheese whey, which is commonly today a waste product, but it is highly nutritious. And you might also know that it's highly nutritious and it contains the most undenatured proteins. And you might also know that today in Japan, GCMAF is made with cheese whey and not bovine colostrum. It used to be made with bovine colostrum. I'm talking about the supplement here. So, are undenatured whey proteins accessible to most people? Yes, but not equally across all dairy products. Undenatured whey proteins are present when milk or whey is gently processed and not exposed to excessive heat or harsh chemical treatment. Common accessible sources from the most to the least intact are fresh liquid milk, non-UHT, standard pasteurized milk does retain some undenatured whey proteins. The most important ones: beta-lactoglobulin, alpha-lactoalbumin, serum albumin, lactoferrin are partially preserved. This makes regular milk a realistic everyday source, though not the most concentrated. Milk processed with high temperature, I forget what the S stands for. High temperature, HTST, I forget what the S stands for. This is the most common method in the US, which is 161 degrees Fahrenheit, 72 centigrade for 15 seconds. It does not fully denature whey proteins, typically only 10 to 30% denaturation rate. Enough native structure remains for biological activity. Low heat cheese whey, fresh whey liquid, whey drained from traditionally made cheeses, not industrial ultra-heated cheese. Historically, this is how whey was consumed, as a fresh liquid, not powder. Underappreciated but biologically relevant. Cold processed or native whey proteins concentrates. Some specialty whey products are processed using low temperature microfiltration. These may explicitly say undenatured, native whey, cold processed, or non-heat treated. So this would be the most, products with the least processing and therefore containing the highest amount of undenatured proteins. Can undenatured whey proteins be found in standard non-organic pasteurized milk? Yes, organic versus non-organic has little to do with denaturation. What matters is temperature, duration, and processing. Standard pasteurized milk uses short time heat. That's probably what it stands for. Wait, what was it? High temperature, short time heat. Preserves a meaningful fraction of native whey proteins. It still contains the cysteine-rich fractions involved in glutathione synthesis, is not equivalent to raw milk, but also not fully denatured. What does significantly denature whey proteins? Ultra-high temperature. This would be shelf-stable cartons, powdered whey products made with high heat, repeated heating, evaporation, and spray drying, and UHT milk can denature 50 to 90% of whey proteins, which is why it behaves differently nutritionally and functionally. Bodybuilding whey isolates are often heavily processed. Not always, and that doesn't mean you're not going to get the benefits from most of the amino acids, but you are going to eliminate a lot of benefits, specifically in regards to glutathione, as we just spoke about. So in summary, undenatured whey proteins are accessible to most people. This is standard pasteurized milk. It still contains them. UHT milk and many powdered supplements contain far less. Organic status does not determine denaturation, but much organic milk sold in the US is treated with ultra-high temperatures, heating it to roughly 280 degrees Fahrenheit. This high heat method extends shelf life and has the same effect of UHT. Processing method matters more than the source, but processing method is still extremely important. So you are not going to get the glutathione benefits in organic milk or in ultra-high temperature, shelf-stable carton milk. You're just not going to get it because it's not there. And that's another thing. In this mouse study, the concept was demonstrated with undenatured whey protein concentrate, and it did not, it was compared to being fed other proteins such as casein. So a lot of times when you're reaching for the Greek yogurt, it's been drained of the acid whey, and you're left with the casein. And I'm not sure what type of milk they're using, but when they were looking specifically at these higher glutathione levels in the liver, heart, and spleen, and that they were sustained and significant because they were sustained over time, you might want to keep that in mind. Now, cheese whey is a waste product. And this is another thing that you always have to keep in mind. What what are they actually taking out of the product? And are they really taking it out for your benefit or for their own benefit? So when it comes to like Greek yogurt, the 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 common myth that was put out there is this is what people like better because they don't like having to stir their yogurt. Well, it turns out that acid whey is extremely valuable, and they do not want it in the water supply. They also don't want cheese whey in the water supply. So um, these 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 things that are considered waste products are actually extremely valuable. And then they just turn around and they resell these waste products to be reused in medicine and other functional foods and things like that, often getting higher prices than they would have gotten for the entire whole product. So that's just something you have to, whenever you see something that seems to be trending or they tell you this is consumer choice. No, I'm not saying it's not good for you to eat casein or high protein Greek yogurt, but just remember what they're taking out and then claiming that it's actually a benefit when it actually is probably making the product less healthy than it is as a whole product. And we can see this historically in the United States, especially, who recently changed their nutrition guidelines. And nutrition guidelines in the US have shifted. The US dietary guidelines no longer promote skim milk as the default and now recognizes whole fat mammal milk as a nutrient dense choice, especially when food quality and processing matter. Aligned with today's research, milk's natural fat matrix helps protect delicate bioactive proteins, making minimally processed whole milk a more logical partner for preserving undenatured whey proteins and their sustained glutathione supporting benefits. So, okay, everyone, I get it all the time. I mean, I understand why some people might want organic, the shelf life, the maybe they just don't, maybe they think there are chemicals in regular milk, whatever. They don't want any hormones, possibly, or something like that. That's fine. Everybody gets what they want, but um, the argument that organic milk is better for you just isn't, it's just not true. The best milk for you is the one that's already on the shelf, pretty much, and that is just minimally processed, regular pasteurized whole fat mammal milk. And that's what I've used, and I have never spent the extra money buying organic. And I, knowing what I know, I simply wouldn't. I do eat Greek yogurt occasionally because sometimes I can find it in flavors that I can't find in regular yogurt. So I do eat it occasionally. But again, there's so many benefits in acid whey and cheese whey, but there are many benefits in acid whey that I like to particularly get that can't be found with other types of whey. So generally consume just regular whole fat mammal milk yogurt with all of the acid whey intact. So those are just some things to keep in mind. Don't necessarily fall for it. Organic is better. You might prefer having shelf-stable, um, long-lasting, long shelf life milk carton, like Parmalat or something on the shelf, but there's virtually no glutathione benefit in that, and the proteins are almost completely denatured. And then finally, when something seems to be driven by consumer demand, think twice, because it's usually for lowering processing costs, lowering waste removal costs, and what they extract could be more valuable for medicine or functional foods or other type of foods, rather than giving you just the entire whole product. So you always have to keep an eye on them. There's no getting around it. Same with the skim milk. Today you find out that that's simply not true, and it was actually quite detrimental to people for a long time to be drinking skim milk in lieu of whole fat mammal milk. And now we know that part of the reason is that fat protects the proteins. So, okay, everyone, we will see you next time, and I will see you next time. And I hope you have a great day and a great week. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next time. Bye.